Walt Disney Presents will not be seen this evening, but will return next Saturday at its regularly scheduled time. This portion of The Wizard of Oz, sponsored by Kellogg's. Great days start with breakfast, and great breakfasts start with Kellogg's.
On today's episode of Pop History Podcast, we look at March of 1982, where we got cop shows coming out of our freaking ears. Ozzy Osbourne has the worst of luck. And the news is just Reagan. Let's kick it!
Pop History Podcast, 1982.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Pop History Podcast. Today, we're going to look at everything that was rad and sad in March of 1982. While we count down the top 10 Billboard singles of the week of March 13th. First, let's get to the music.
Number 10.
The Little River Band will always have a little special place in my heart. They were the first song I ever played on Pop History Podcast. Their track, Cool Change, was number 10 in January of 1980. Now in March of 82, they return to the number 10 spot. Here is Take It Easy on Me.
So now I'll go the minstrel road without you. I know there will be times when I'll need you there. And each night as I sing those songs about you, I'll think back to the time when you used to care. Take it easy on me. It should be easy to see. I'm getting lost in the crowd. Hear me crying out loud. Just want you to know, I know that you have to go. It's all up to you, but whatever you do, take it easy on me.
That's Australian soft rock group Little River Band with Take It Easy on Me from their 6th album, Time Exposure.
There's a neat twist on color that Avon's got. They're the latest thing and they're really hot. Color Twist cheeks, soft creamy color. Color Twist eyes, shadow and shade. Color Twist lips, contour precisely with that sharp slant tip. You've got it made. Color Twist, try 'em and see. They're made by the world's largest beauty company. Color Twist by Avon.
The Ansel 4.
A carpet made of Ansel 4 will stand up to the toughest test. A small quartet, a cocktail party, all contribute to the mess. Some strudel slipping off a plate, ice cream heading for the floor. But you don't have to worry when your carpet's made of Ansel 4. Yes, when you look for carpet made of Ansel 4. Protection's built right in, not like that carpet that you had before. Remember how you panicked when those puppies headed back for more. Now you don't have to worry, cause your carpet's made of Ansel 4.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the news of March of 1982. The nation's unemployment rate jumps back up to 8.8% last February. President Reagan resumes his acting career, appearing briefly as himself in a television show about the assassination attempt in which he was shot and wounded. The show is called Saving the President, and it airs on Channel 7 in Washington on March 30th, the first anniversary of the event. Nancy Kissinger, wife of Henry Kissinger, appears in court after allegedly throttling a woman who had insulted her husband at a New Jersey airport. Nancy would later be acquitted of all charges. White House Communications Director David Gergen made it clear that President Reagan has not implemented a secret plan to topple the communist Nicaraguan government. Reagan rejects the idea of a nuclear arms freeze by both the United States and the Soviet Union, declaring this would leave us and our allies on very thin ice in Europe. Reagan is all over the news. He also says that television reporting has become slanted against the United States and their actions in El Salvador, and calls on reporters to trust his administration. There has been a kind of editorial slant which challenges what we're doing here, he said. To help stem the flood of illegal aliens, Senator Alan Simpson of Wyoming and Representative Roman Mazzoli of Kentucky introduced an immigration bill in which calls for a national identification system for all job seekers, citizens as well as aliens. This will help stem the flood of illegal aliens. Interestingly, Simpson and Mazzoli are Democrat and Republican, respectively. Many are killed when guerrillas and troops fight it out in El Salvador, including 4 Dutch television newsmen who are killed in a gun battle. Reagan is blaming Jimmy Carter for past petroleum problems and said his administration will move to decontrol American oil and will lead to lower energy prices. Thousands in the Midwest from Michigan to Ohio and upstate New York are evacuated due to flooding. First Lady Nancy Reagan denies a recent report that she was forcing her husband not to seek a second term due to the attempt on his life a year ago. While writing down the denial, the First Lady also denies any contradiction with her concern for drug problems in the country and the president's budget cuts in drug enforcement efforts. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's daughter-in-law, the recently widowed and future politician Maneka Gandhi, claims that Gandhi, the leader of more than 700 million people, physically and mentally abused her before throwing her out of the house where she had lived with her husband before he died. On its third flight, the space shuttle Columbia lands smoothly in Mexico after an 8-day mission.
Introducing one of the finest riding Continentals in continental history. A 1982 Continental, with a ride that comes from a sophisticated suspension system. A ride that achieves that fine balance between comfort and control. The new Continental, the most unconventional Continental in 40 years.
Number 9.
At number 9 this month, we have folk musician Dan Fogelberg. He was last featured on one of our episodes with his hit song, Longer. Now he's back with his tribute to his father, Lawrence Fogelberg, a musician in his own right. Here is leader of the band.
An only child alone and wild, a cabinet maker's son. His hands were meant for different work, and his heart was known to none. He left his home and went his lone and solitary way, and he gave to me a gift I know I never can repay. A quiet man of music, denied a simpler fate. He tried to be a soldier once, but his music wouldn't wait. He earned his love through discipline, a thundering velvet hand. His gentle means of sculpting souls took me years to understand. The leader of the band is tired and his eyes are growing old, but his blood runs through my instrument and his song is in my soul. My life has been a poor attempt to imitate the man. I'm just a living legacy to the leader of the band.
That's Dan Fogelberg with Leader of the Band, a song which had been covered in 2017 by country star Zac Brown for a tribute album to Fogelberg.
We're NBC, just watch us, NBC. You'll love us, NBC. Just watch us now. Just watch us now. Just watch us now. Just watch us now.
Let's look at the TV news. The very first Night of 100 Stars TV special airs on ABC. The all-star variety special celebrates the centennial of the Actors Fund of America. It would rank as the second most popular show of the week, behind Dallas. Regis Philbin's NBC daytime talk show is not doing so well in the ratings. It debuted last November 30th, And although NBC originally appeared committed to sticking with the initial 26-week run, the show was ultimately canceled after 18 weeks. The National Coalition on Television Violence says network television shows portray an average of 6 violent acts an hour, with ABC being the worst offender. ABC's Sunday Night Movie is the most violent, with an average of 22 violent acts per hour. ABC's The Fall Guy follows with 21, and others include Strikeforce, The Greatest American Hero, and Heart to Heart. Barbara Mandrell, Burt Reynolds, and Kenny Rogers are named the People's Choice in the 8th Annual People's Choice Awards. Hill Street Blues wins 2 awards, New Television Series and New Television Drama Series. MASH received 1 for Television Comedy Program, as did Private Benjamin for New Comedy Program.
Number 8 is really great.
Last year, Motown darling Diana Ross departed the iconic record label and signed a $20 million deal with RCA. With her second single from her latest album, Why Do Fools Fall in Love, here is the Queen of Soul with Mirror Mirror.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, you said you had the answer to it all. You never told me I'd take a fall. Mirror, mirror on the wall. You turned my life into a paperback novel. Words that come to life inside your little melodrama. Chapter 1, when I was young, I came to you with my problems. Chapter 2, you promised me love and anything that I desire. Tell me, mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall, thought you said you had the answer to it all. Never told me I was gonna take a fall. Tell me, mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall. You have nailed my heart upon the wall for your pleasure. You have cast a spell that cannot ever be broken. And now my eyes grow tired. I watch my picture getting older. But I remain the same, trapped in this mirror forever. Tell me, mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall, thought you said you had the answer to it all. You never told me I was gonna take a fall. Tell me, mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall. I talk to you each night, and I follow your advice. You've been wrong. What's the price I have to pay?
That's Diana Ross asking her magic mirror why her true love fell apart in her latest single. The music video was played on BET, but was rejected by MTV. The early days of MTV were, how can I say this? Well, they were white. Very white, but that won't last much longer. Telephone answering machines are becoming more and more popular. 2 of the biggest makers are PhoneMate and Record-a-Call, but there are more and more makers of these devices. The arcade hit Pac-Man gets the Atari treatment for its release on the Atari Video Computer System this month. The graphics and the gameplay were such a disappointment that out of the 12 million cartridges produced, only 7 million were sold. This game is believed to be one of the causes of the North American video game crash of 1983.
First the Pac-Man eats through a maze of dots. Then the Pac-Man heads for the corner spots. Then he eats his fill of a power pill. And then all those ghosts turn blue, blue. And Pac-Man eats them all
want to.
Only Atari makes the Pac-Man home video game, and you can only play it on an Atari video game system.
Have you played Atari today?
The legend of Tony the Tiger.
Breakfast! Come and get it! Same old grub again, Cookie.
HL, Frosted Flakes partners.
Isn't that, kitty food, stranger?
Way I reckon, Kellogg's Sugar Frosted Flakes have a taste you never outgrow.
Mighty good.
Some folks call them great.
Much obliged, eh, stranger? Who was that striped man, anyway?
It's gonna be a great day.
Hi.
Who are you?
We're the Welchkins. We pick these delicious grapes for Welch's Delicious Grape Jelly.
We pick them at the peak of perfection.
And Welchkins take care of Welch's Flavor Saver. The Flavor Saver saves the natural grape flavor of Welch's before it goes up in steam.
Keeps it right in the jelly.
Welch's is delicious.
Of course it's delicious. Take it from the Welchkins. Nobody else's tastes better than Welch's.
Let's test your 1982 knowledge. Ads for 7-Up in 1982, the third most popular soda in the U.S., claim that it never had it, never will. What is it that 7-Up never had and never will?
Are you sure you want that soft drink?
Why?
A 7-Up might be nice.
Why?
I like it.
Why?
7-Up is light and refreshing, crisp and clean, and no caffeine. Never had it, never will. All of these other soft drinks have caffeine.
Why?
Why? Why? Good question.
Don't you feel good about 7-Up?
That was the 1982 7-Up Never Had It, Never Will commercial with actor Jeffrey Holden, reminding customers that 7-Up never had caffeine and it never will. Holder is perhaps best remembered as the villain Baron Samedi in the 1973 Bond film Live and Let Die. After being offered a 5-year, $1 million contract, radio personality Howard Stern of WWDC Washington is taking his act to the Big Apple. Stern begins working afternoons at WNBC in New York City. Stern is facing some competition in New York, which he may have never expected. 54-year-old sex therapist Ruth Westheimer's radio show, titled Sexually Speaking, airs on WYNY, and it's a big hit for the city.
Number 7.
Last year, their debut single, Our Lips Are Sealed, peaked at number 20 on the Billboard charts. The song became a staple on MTV. Now the Go-Go's are breaking into the top 10 with their second single from their Beauty and the Beat album. Here is We Got the Beat. That's the Go-Go's with We Got the Beat, a song which was written by guitarist Charlotte Caffey and salutes early 60s dances by name-dropping the pony, the Watusi, and go-go dancing. What's new on the record shelves this month? Windows is the 12th studio album from the Charlie Daniels Band. The supergroup consisting of John Welton of King Crimson, Steve Howe and Jeff Downs of Yes, and Carl Palmer of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, released their debut album titled Asia. We'll be hearing more from this band in future episodes. Canadian synth pop group Men Without Hats released their debut album titled Rhythm of Youth. The second single, The Safety Dance, would become a big hit for the band, but not for another year and a half. Real Music is a new compilation album from the Beatles, featuring mixes that were rare in the US or just previously unavailable. English metal band Iron Maiden were pushed up against a wall last year when they had to fire their lead singer Paul Di'Anno, just as the band was becoming more and more popular. Their third album, and first with new singer Bruce Dickinson, The Number of the Beast, is released this month. The album would be a huge hit for the band, reaching number 1 in the UK, and their title track single reached in the UK top 10. Here's a little bit of that title track by Iron Maiden, The Number of the Beast. That's a jam. Following up on the success of his hit Jessie's Girl, Rick Springfield returns with Success Hasn't Spoiled Me Yet. Talking Heads released their double live album titled The Name of This Band is Talking Heads. Right. Australian rock band The Church released their second album titled The Blurred Crusade. Willie Nelson is back with his 27th studio album, Always on My Mind. It will become a huge hit thanks to the title track. Atlantic Records is hoping a hit will come from Laura Branigan's self-titled debut. R&B act Atlanta Star returned with their fourth album, Brilliance. They have been becoming popular in the punk scene over the past few years, with several singles being released. But this month, the Misfits officially released their first full-length album, Walk Among Us. German rockers The Scorpions return with their eighth album, Blackout. It's been 2 years since their last album, and during that time, lead singer Klaus Meine had to undergo vocal cord surgery, and it was uncertain if he would be able to return to the band and record the album. The band recorded demos of material, with young vocalist Don Dokken filling in. But Klaus Meine recovered, and he was able to provide the vocals for the final product. The album would produce the hit No One Like You, which will eventually top the Billboard mainstream rock charts.
day. A double daring duo takes your breath away. But the single most favorite double in the world is Double Good, Double Mint Gum.
Double your pleasure with Double Mint Gum. Double good, double fresh, double delicious.
Oh, the single most favorite double in the world is Double Good, Double Mint Gum.
It's the single most favorite double.
Kellogg's Rice Krispies. It's the only cereal that talks to you. And that's great company in the morning.
Oh, you silly devils. Says who? Says me, that's who says.
Crisp bits of toasted rice that say snap, crackle, pop.
Wonderful little chums at breakfast, aren't they?
Kellogg's Rice Krispies cereal. Great company in the morning.
To number 6.
At number 6 this week is Air Supply with their latest. This one is Sweet Dreams.
Close your eyes, I want to ride the skies in my sweet dream. Close your eyes, I want to see you tonight in my sweet dream. Close your eyes, I want to ride the skies in my sweet dream. Close your eyes, I want to see you tonight in my sweet dream.
You remember Graham Russell and Russell Hitchcock guest hosting on the syndicated music show Solid Gold? You didn't dream it. The duo were originally just intended to be the musical guests on an episode. But when co-host Andy Gibb didn't show up to the recording, which eventually led to his termination, Air Supply provided the co-hosting duties. They were so good at it, they were invited back numerous times to host the show. Now it's time for our TV theme trivia. This show made its debut this month. Can you name it?
Happy anniversary, darling, as you go so far away. We were meant to be together this special day. So I'm giving you this hallmark, and I hope that you will see what I'm really giving you is a part of me.
This anniversary, give a little of yourself. Give a Hallmark.
This is where you come to be really refreshed. For a taste so cool, so delicious, it could only be Velements. For a taste so fresh, it takes your breath away.
Great taste that only happens here. Velements. Great taste that's always cool and clear.
Cool refreshment. That's the Velements taste.
Great taste that only happens here. Velements.
Mr. Keebler?
Yes, sir?
I'm the world's richest man.
My.
Your Rich and Chips cookies taste rich. I admire that in a cookie.
Our cookies would taste rich even without the chips. When we add lots of chocolatey chips, Rich and Chips cookies taste deliciously rich.
Uncommonly rich. I'll buy your whole factory.
Our hollow tree's not for sale.
I'll build my own. How long does it take?
Oh, about 100 years.
Rich tasting Keebler Rich and Chips and coconut chocolate drops.
Police dramas were typically a safe bet for a new show, especially in the early 80s. Even more so when you have a movie star to take the lead role. For this show, our star has turned in his phaser for a pistol. William Shatner, most famous for his role as James T. Kirk in the Star Trek franchise, returns to television as a title character in T.J. Hooker. The background of veteran Police Sergeant Thomas Jefferson Hooker is that after his partner was killed in the line of duty, Hooker becomes motivated to rid the streets of crime and returns to his former position as a uniformed patrolman. Hooker's tough, no-nonsense demeanor has him often clashing with his superiors, but he always catches the crook in the end. Adrian Zmed would play Hooker's young protege, Officer Romano, with Heather Locklear brought in Season 2 as Officer Sheridan. T.J. Hooker was canceled by ABC in the summer of 1985, but the show survived when CBS picked up the show for a final 5th season. T.J. Hooker wasn't the only news show to debut this month. Heck, it wasn't even the only cop show to debut this month. It's not just men out there with a gun and a badge. Sharon Gless and Tyne Daly star as Cagney and Lacey. When the show was in pre-production, it was intended to be a female cop buddy comedy film, with the original title being Newman and Redford. In the fall of 1981, a TV movie called Cagney and Lacey aired on CBS, with Loretta Swift of MASH playing the lead opposite Tyne Daly. The Gless-Daly version of Cagney and Lacey wasn't an immediate hit for CBS. After the conclusion of the first full-length season, CBS canceled the show in May of 1983. But fans of the show began a letter-writing campaign, and CBS switched its time slot for the summer reruns. Suddenly, the ratings for the reruns were rising. That, combined with an Emmy win by Daly, would lead to CBS bringing back the show for a 7-episode third season, debuting in March of 1984. From 1983 to 1988, the Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Drama Series went to Cagney and Lacey, with Tyne Daly winning 4 and Sharon Gless winning 3. The show also won the Outstanding Drama Series Emmy in 1985 and 1986. And we have another cop show, but this one was a little bit different in its own way.
The producers of the hit comedy movie Airplane are landing on television with Police Squad. They're out to clean up the streets and put the knockout on crime. Leslie Nielsen is the new breed of cops stepping into the 80s when Police Squad hits the streets, premiering March 4th.
The crime spoof Police Squad premieres on ABC. The comedy stars Leslie Nielsen as Detective Frank Drebin. The show would only last 6 episodes, but would gain a cult following through repeat broadcasts. It might be the only TV show that lasted a half a dozen episodes, yet still spawned a hit film trilogy. Frank Drebin would return to fight crime once again in 1988, when the first of 3 Naked Gun films hits the theaters. And you thought that was it, didn't you? Psych! We got one more. Ron Silver stars the member of an undercover anti-crime unit of the New York Police Department in the short-lived sitcom Baker's Dozen. This one also only lasted 6 episodes, but no movies for this one.
Number 5.
We recently saw George Benson score a top 10 hit with a new song from a greatest hits album. Now, Stevie Wonder is doing the same thing. Tamiya Records is prepared to release the compilation album Stevie Wonder's Original Musicarium 1 in May. And with it, they released a preview single. Here is Stevie Wonder with the new track, That Girl.
With her emotional
That Girl by Stevie Wonder would top the Billboard R&B singles charts for 9 weeks. But here on the Billboard Hot 100, it would only peak at number 4, and this week it sits at number 5 on our charts.
Whole grain wheat helps make Kellogg's Mini Wheats very nutritious.
Kellogg's Frosted Mini Wheats is a shredded wheat cereal that's good for you.
And it really tastes good, too.
Kellogg's Frosted and Apple Frosted Mini Wheat cereals. Little biscuits lightly sweet made of crunchy wheat.
Kellogg's Frosted Mini Wheats has the nutrients of whole grain wheat.
It's really fun to eat.
Shredded wheat.
Fun to eat Kellogg's Frosted Mini Wheats.
And I was looking, they didn't have any Snickers, and I thought, I just won't be satisfied with anything else.
It's so satisfying.
It ties you over from one meal to the next without being filling. They're a nice afternoon snack, like when the kids come home from school. Snickers is packed with peanuts, that's for sure. I mean, look at that. I mean, can you see those peanuts? There's a lot of peanuts in there. Peanuts and caramel and chocolate. It just wakes my whole mouth up. Packed with peanuts. Snickers really satisfied. I like them. You want one?
Let's look at what's going on in the music world. After 12 years and 11 albums, the Doobie Brothers announced they are disbanding. The prime reason cited is conflicting solo careers by keyboardist vocalist Michael McDonald and guitarist vocalist Pat Simmons. After a long career on Motown Records, R&B legend Marvin Gaye has a beef with the record label. It seems his 1981 album In Our Lifetime had its cover artwork altered and the music was remixed without Gaye's permission. This month, Gaye officially ditches Motown by signing with CBS Records. With worldwide sales of 4 million of its Walkman cassette players since they launched in July 1979, Sony adds 2 new Walkman lines, the WMR2, which features a microphone and a second headphone jack, and the high-end Walkman Professional WMC-D6, with all the bells and whistles. In Philadelphia, R&B singer Teddy Pendergrass is in critical condition after his Rolls-Royce swerved off a winding road and crashed into the trees. 31-year-old Pendergrass and his companion, Tanika Watson, were trapped in the car for nearly 45 minutes before rescue workers could pry them free. While Watson walked away from the collision with only minor injuries, Pendergrass suffered a spinal cord injury, leaving him paralyzed from the chest down. Former Monkey Peter Tork was attempting a comeback late last year with his new band called The New Monks. They even released a new version of the Monkees' hit Steppin' Stone. But this month, the New Monks have officially disbanded. The Mamas and the Papas began a reunion tour with a show in New York with original members John Phillips and Denny Doherty, along with Mackenzie Phillips and Spanky McFarlane, replacing Michelle Gilliam and Mama Cass, respectively. In Texas, musician David Crosby is arrested for possession of Quaaludes and drug paraphernalia while driving under the influence of cocaine and carrying a concealed weapon. He would later be sentenced to 9 months in a Texas state prison.
Number 4.
Moving up the charts to number 4, here's the Cars with their hit. Here is Shake It Up.
Shake it up, shake it up, shake it up, baby. Shake it up, shake it up, shake it up, shake it up, yeah, shake it up, shake it up, shake it up, shake it up, shake it up.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Richard Pryor talks fire live on the Sunset Strip.
Fire is inspirational. They should use it in the Olympics. Because I did the 100-yard dash in 4.3. When you're on fire and running down the street, people will get out of your way.
The Funniest Man in America is back. Rated R. Starting Friday at a theater near you.
Legendary comedian Richard Pryor is back with an all-new stand-up film live on Sunset Strip. It'll become Pryor's most successful. It also includes Pryor's frank discussion about his drug addictions and the night he was caught on fire while freebasing cocaine.
Recently I spent a holiday in the glamorous island retreat of the international socialite Madame Daphne. There were millionaires, movie stars, and murderers. Everyone had an alibi, but everyone had a motive. Join me for Agatha Christie's Evil Under the Sun, rated PG.
Starts Friday at Aurora Village, Crossroads, and Parkland.
This adaptation of the 1941 Agatha Christie novel stars Peter Ustinov.
Only two things separated Libby Tucker from her father, 3,000 miles and 16 years.
I don't even know how she found me. Took him 20 years to find Eichmann. You must be pretty strong to come all the way from New York with a 200-pound chip on your shoulder.
Well, you ought to know. You're the one who dumped it there.
Walter Matthau, Anne Margaret, Dinah Manoff.
You are the uniquest kid I ever met.
Neil Simon's I Ought to Be in Pictures, rated PG. Starts tomorrow at a selected theater near you.
Neil Simon's I Ought to Be in Pictures is directed by Herbert Ross and based on Simon's play of the same name. The film stars Walter Matthau, Anne Margaret, and Dinah Manoff, the latter being the only cast member to reprise her Broadway role for the film. Manoff stars as a 19-year-old who travels to Hollywood to become an actress and track down her absentee father. Film critics Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert selected the film as one of their worst of the year, with Siskel calling it another exercise in annoying manipulation from one man who I wish wasn't in pictures. Ouch.
Will shock you. It's about the terrorists. He wants them killed.
I want to kill him myself.
I don't want him going over that border. If he's already across, I don't want him coming out. The last 11 minutes will rivet you to your seat. John Savage is The Amateur, rated R.
Now playing at a select theater near you.
The Amateur is a crime thriller starring John Savage and Christopher Plummer. The Canadian film first hit theaters in the Great White North in December of 1981 and had several Genie Award nominations for the best in Canadian cinema. In the U.S., it would not be quite as popular.
Personal Best. A film about crossing boundaries, exceeding limitations.
Imagine how many bodies you all buried to get here.
And giving everything you've got.
I could have been a man's coach, backfield coach, Oregon State. I had the job. I actually had the job. I don't know what scares you more, getting beat by Tori Skinner or beating her.
Personal Best, rated R.
Exclusively at the Man's Brew in Westwood.
Mariel Hemingway plays a young track and field athlete vying for the Olympic glory in Personal Best. Scott Glenn co-stars as her coach.
There's so much suspense, you'll never guess the ending. Join Michael Caine, Christopher Reeve, and Diane Cannon in Ira Levin's Death Trap. A wickedly funny Who'll Do It, rated PG. Now playing. Check newspapers for theater near you.
Michael Caine plays a very successful playwright who has fallen on hard times and is desperate for a hit. He gets a letter from a young aspiring playwright, played by Christopher Reeve, who wants him to critique his work. Kane is so impressed by his play, he invites him out to his secluded home with the intent to kill him and steal his play.
Is this woman really a man pretending to be a woman? Or is this woman really a woman pretending to be a man pretending to be a woman? And why is this man, who is all man, in love with this man? Unless he knows that this man is really a woman pretending to be a man pretending to be a woman.
I don't care if you are a man.
Blake Edwards' Victor Victoria. The disguised surprise comedy hit of the year. Rated PG. Special advance preview this Friday. Check newspapers for a theater near you.
Did you figure that out? Not sure if I did. Nonetheless, Julie Andrews stars in the Blake Edwards film Victor Victoria. The gender-bender musical is praised by critics as being sharp, funny, and all-around entertaining, and would win an Oscar for Best Original Score. And Julie Andrews would take home the Golden Globe for Best Actress.
20th Century Fox would like to introduce you to Pee-wee and his pals.
Speaking of horny mother.
Tommy, Mickey, Tim,
I'm going tonight, right? I don't know.
and the biggest man on campus.
Why do they call you meat? Because you're so big?
When they're not in class, they're into everything.
Save your energy, you're gonna need it.
Okay. Okay, pull over. Coast is clear.
But what they'd like to get into most is a place called Porky's.
I left my idea. Here, use this one. That's my Bible school card.
Unfortunately, we can only show you the outside of Porky's, because what goes on inside is not to be believed.
Boy, the locker room. Oh, it turned me on.
We'd like to show you more of the locker room, but this kind of physical education just isn't taught. We can't show you more of the shower scene, because what they're looking at isn't watered down.
They want us to look. They want us to look.
Porky. You too will be back for a second look.
Okay, I'm ready.
The new R-rated comedy Porky's hits theaters across America. The film would define a new genre of lowbrow coming-of-age comedies, which film critics Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert viewed as objectifying and degrading to women and delivering a childless nature of its antagonists. However, the film would become a huge hit this year, taking in over $100 million. But if we look at the top 5 box office leaders of March, we have, at number 1 is On Golden Pond, again. Number 2 is Richard Pryor's Live on the Sunset Strip. Number 3 is Porky's. Number 4 is Raiders Lost Ark, still hanging in there. And number 5 is Chariots of Fire. Let's see what's going on in the movie news. Actress Teresa Saldana, best known for her featured role as boxer Jay LaMotta's sister-in-law in the 1980 film Raging Bull, is stabbed outside her West Hollywood apartment by an apparent stalker. A suspect had been arrested. The 54th Annual Academy Awards are hosted by Johnny Carson. The big winners are Chariots of Fire wins Best Picture. The leading actor and actresses go to Henry Fonda and Katharine Hepburn, both for their performances in On Golden Pond. Best Supporting Actor is John Gielgud from Arthur. And Best Supporting Actress, Maureen Stapleton from Reds. On the flip side, the second annual Golden Raspberry Awards are also held on Oscar night to recognize the worst in the film industry. The award for Worst Picture of 1981 went to Mommy Dearest. Clinton Spilsbury wins the Worst Actor Award for The Legend of the Lone Ranger. Bo Derek from Tarzan the Ape Man and Faye Dunaway for Mommy Dearest tied for Worst Actress. Joan Jett found some success, most notably in Japan with her 70s rock band The Runaways. The band would implode by 1979, and Jett embarked on a new career with her backup band, The Blackhearts. Their debut album in 1980 was a flop, but looks like Joan Jett has scored a hit in the U.S. With the first single from their latest album, here is the title track, I Love Rock and Roll.
I saw him dancing there by the record machine. I knew he must have been about 17. Big ask for his name. That don't matter, he said, 'cause it's all the same. So can I take you home where we can be alone? And next we were moving on. He was with me, yeah, me. Next we were moving on. He was with me, yeah, me. Singing, I love rock and roll. Spend another time in the jukebox, baby. I love rock and roll. So take time and dance with me. Take you home where we can be alone. Next we're moving on. He was with me, yeah, me. And we'll be moving on and singing that same old song, yeah, with me. Singing, I love rock and roll. So put another dime in the jukebox, baby. I love rock and roll. So come and take your time and dance with me. I love rock and roll. So put another dime in the jukebox, baby. I love rock and roll. So come and take your time and dance with me. I love rock and roll. So put another dime in the jukebox, baby. I love rock and roll. So come and take your time and dance with me. I love rock and roll. So put another dime in the jukebox, baby. I love rock and roll. So come and take your time and dance with me. I love rock and roll. So put another dime in the jukebox, baby. I love rock and roll. So come and take your time and dance with me.
That was Joan Jett and the Blackhearts with I Love Rock and Roll, a cover which was first recorded by the band Arrows in 1975. Now let's take a look at who came and went from the world in March of 1982. Those crying all night for the first time include Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger, actresses Jessica Biel, Thora Birch, Lindsay McKeon, and Constance Wu, race car driver Danica Patrick, and comedian actress Jenny Slate. In March of 1982, we lost some unforgettable legends. Author Philip K. Dick dies this month at the age of 53 after suffering several strokes and becoming brain dead, leading to his family deciding to remove him from life support. Dick was a writer of dozens of novels and short stories, mainly delving into science fiction. His writings have been adapted into many films over the years, including Blade Runner, Total Recall, Minority Report, and the Amazon series The Man in the High Castle. Russian-American author Ayn Rand is best known for the novels The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. Rand died at the age of 77 in New York City. One of the biggest names in Hollywood, comedian actor John Belushi, is found dead in a high-end Chateau Marmont hotel in Hollywood. He was 33. Belushi was born and raised in Chicago, starting comedy there at a young age and relocating to New York City in 1972 to take a job working for National Lampoon. In 1975, while producers were casting for the upcoming Saturday Night Variety show, comedian Chevy Chase recommended Belushi to producer Lorne Michaels. Over his 4-year tenure at Saturday Night Live, Belushi developed a series of successful characters, including the belligerent Samurai Futaba, Henry Kissinger, Ludwig van Beethoven, the Greek owner of the Olympia Cafe, Captain Kirk, and a contributor of several furious opinion pieces on Weekend Update. With his friend in life and comedy Dan Aykroyd, Belushi created Jake and Elwood, the Blues Brothers. They were originally intended just to warm up the crowd at Saturday Night Live before the show, but the Blues Brothers were a hit, and they were eventually featured as musical guests and led to a hit 1980 film. Here's a little bit of Belushi from SNL.
Hi, I'm John Belushi. Just having a cup of coffee before the show. It's kind of a tradition with me. Here at Saturday Night Live, we have another tradition that the show is always open with the words, "Live from New York, it's..." Well, you know the rest. Tonight, our producer, Lorne Michaels, has convinced the NBC brass to let me say the words, which will start tonight's show. Now, it was no easy battle. I mean, we've done close to 50 shows, and this is the first time I've been allowed to do the opening. You see, I've got a bad reputation around NBC as a troublemaker. The network brass think, oh, actors are stupid. So, naturally, any actor who thinks for himself or has any sort of intellect is a troublemaker to them. Let's forget that now. I mean, that's not important now. Anyway, that I know that my being out here alone at the beginning of a live show represents a sacred trust the network has bestowed upon me. Because, of course, the show cannot start until I say those words. Think of it. Right now, NBC, one of the country's largest corporations with billions in assets, is waiting for me, a stupid, troublemaking punk actor from Wheaton, Illinois, to open the show. Well, I've got them where I want them. Right in the palm of my hand. But although I could easily do it, I would never, what's the word I'm looking for? Betray the network's trust in me. I will say the words, live from New York, it's, you know what, when I'm ready.
25-year-old Randy Rhoads, lead guitarist of Ozzy Osbourne's band, along with 2 others, are killed after the plane they were in crashed, slamming into a home. The plane clipped a van and a tree before crashing into the 2-story house. Randy Rhoads was a classically trained guitarist in a heavy metal world. He helped form the metal group Quiet Riot in 1973. The band had some overseas success but couldn't find a hit in their homeland of the United States. In 1979, Rhoads met an inebriated Ozzy Osbourne, who was reportedly blown away by his talents and hired him on the spot for his upcoming solo band. He played all the guitar tracks on Osbourne's first 2 solo albums, Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. Despite his short career, Rhoads was a major influence on neoclassical metal and cited as a major influence by many guitarists, and included in most of the greatest guitarists of all time lists. From the 1987 live album Tribute, here is Randy Rhoads on guitar as recorded in Cleveland in May of 1981. Edmonton Oilers hockey star Wayne Gretzky is earning his future title as the Great One as he becomes the first NHL player to score 200 points in a season. It will be his first of 4 seasons with over 200 points. In triple overtime, the Milwaukee Bucks beat the San Antonio Spurs by a final score of 171 to 166, becoming the highest scoring game in NBA history at the time. And fans of the 1974 book The Jupiter Effect are bracing for a series of global disasters this month. A real alignment of all 9 planets invokes a fear of a human extinction-level disaster on March 10th, 1982. British astrophysicist and science writer John Gribben, along with astronomer Stephen Plageman, asserted that when all the planets lined up on one side of the sun, the gravitational pull would trigger sunspots, solar winds, and an increase of Earth's rotation. The authors fail to mention that this occurrence happens every 179 years. But the book becomes a bestseller. But then the fateful day arrives.
Did anything strange or unusual happen to you today? You know, anything like, total death and destruction, havoc wreaked, the end of the world, that sort of thing. Well, today's the day that all that was supposed to happen. March 10th is the day when all the planets of the solar system are on one side of the sun. Now, without going into all the detail, that rough alignment is supposed to cause the end of the world and such, the famed Jupiter effect. So we checked with various authorities in the Fargo area and people in the know to find out if anything happened in our area today. Fargo Police Chief Edwin Anderson said nothing was happening, no earthquakes, no death or destruction, just a quiet day in the city. Cass County Disaster Emergency Services Coordinator Gordon Sletmo said all was quiet his way. He's catching up on some paperwork today.
Routine day as far as we're concerned here. We have never had any type of call for any assistance or anything.
You haven't made any special plans today, have you?
No.
Now, it just might be possible that this day of disasters eluded the proper authorities. So we went straight to the people to find out if they experienced the Jupiter effect.
I don't believe so. The weather's a little bit hazy and foggy. That's about all.
You haven't seen any massive death or destruction or earthquakes or California?
Nothing like that. I hope we don't.
Oh, nothing unusual.
Now, you're not just saying that to keep everybody calm.
No? Haven't noticed anything yet.
No, nothing yet. Just want to be home with my lady, but I just, gotta go out looking for a job.
So what can we conclude here? Well, it seems that one of two things has happened. Either the Jupiter effect has fizzled today, or we're all dead and just don't know it yet. Keith Darnay, News 11, Fargo.
2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2.
At number 2 this week is the third single from Journey's mega successful album, Escape. Here is Open Arms.
Lying beside you, here in the dark, feeling your heart with mine. Softly you whisper, you're so sincere. How could our love be so blind? We sailed on together, drifted apart, and here you are by my side. So now I come to you, open arms, nothing to hide, believe what I say. So here I am with open arms, hoping you'll see what your love means to me. Open arms.
There have been other rock bands who have soared up the charts with a power ballad. There's Kiss with Beth in 1976, or Styx's number one song Babe in 1979. But Open Arms has been cited by some as bringing in a new era of the 80s power ballad by a hard rock band. After Open Arms spends 6 weeks at number 2 on the charts, it seems that every rock band will be sure to include a soft love song on their next album, all set and ready to be released as a single. Well, on Pop History Podcast, we only cover 1 week of the month's top 10 Billboard hits, so there are other weeks where a song could slip in and out of the top 10 and never gets mentioned in the show. Well, sometimes we need to take a moment to look at one of these songs that should have stayed on the charts longer, but didn't. This month's track is by the novelty group Buckner and Garcia. The duo are behind such modest novelty hits as Gotta Hear the Beat in 1972 and Merry Christmas in the NFL in 1980. But this time they hopped on the latest trend and scored a hit. More after this.
I've spent half my life peeling potatoes. Now, Orida's come out with new home-style potatoes. And they left the doggone skins on. Why, these new Orida home-style potatoes come as chunky wedges, hearty thins, and big planks. I always knew skins added extra flavor. Now I got proof. These new Orida home-style potatoes are Orida.
Meet Debbie, a budding musical star. Debbie's wearing one of those saggy diapers that leak, and that has her singing the blues. Well, here's Huggies Debbie. Form-fitting Huggies diapers are thick and absorbent with soft, gentle elastic to help stop leaking. So Huggies hug to help keep babies dry and comfortable. Kleenex Huggies diapers. They help keep babies dry. And that should be music to your ears. Right, Deb?
This single sold over 2.5 million copies worldwide, but only snuck in the top 10, peaking at number 9 for one of our weeks in March of 1982. Capitalizing on the popularity of the biggest video game in the world, here is Buckner and Garcia with Pac-Man Fever.
Soon as 'Cause I got Pac-Man fever. Pac-Man fever. It's driving me crazy. Driving me crazy. I got Pac-Man fever. Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. Out of my mind. I got Pac-Man fever. Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. Out of my mind. I got all the patterns down up until the night heat. I got Speedy on my tail and I know it's either him or me. So I'm heading out the back door and in the other side. Gonna eat the cherries up and take them all for a ride. I got Pac-Man fever. Pac-Man fever. It's driving me crazy. Driving me crazy. I got Pac-Man fever. Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. Out of my mind. I got Pac-Man fever. Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. Out of my mind. I'm gonna fake to the left and move to the right. Spunky's too slow and Pinky's out of sight. Now I got 'em on the run and I'm looking for the high score. So it's once around the block and I slide back out the side door. I'm really cooking now, eating everything inside. All my money's gone, so I'll be back tomorrow night. 'Cause I got Pac-Man fever. Pac-Man fever. It's driving me crazy. Driving me crazy. I got Pac-Man fever. Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. Going out of my mind. I got Pac-Man fever. Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. Out of my mind. I got Pac-Man fever. Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. Going out of my mind. I got Pac-Man fever. Pac-Man fever. It's driving me crazy. Pac-Man fever. Pac-Man fever. I'm going out of my mind. Going out of my mind. Pac-Man fever.
Jerry Buckner of Buckner and Garcia isn't just hopping on the latest trend, he is an admitted Pac-Man junkie. It's amazing how easy it is to get hooked on Pac-Man, he said. Hours go by and you don't realize you're sitting there spending money. It's a mental challenge, and you also get an emotional high from playing it. That's hard to describe. We got into a $20 a day habit. We're real junkies.
Number 1.
Topping the charts once again on Pop History Podcast, it's the Jay Giles Band with their biggest hit of their long career. Here is Centerfold.
Does she walk? Does she talk? Does she come complete? My homeroom angel always pulled me from my seat. She was pure like snowflakes, no one could ever stain. The memory of my angel could never cause me pain. Years go by, I'm looking through a girly magazine, and there's my home angel on the pages in between. My blood runs cold, my memory has just been sold. My angel is the centerfold, angel
Although the J. Giles Band would fall from popularity in the next few years, the signature song would not be forgotten. Centerfold has a long history on the big and small screens. It's been used in the films Charlie's Angels, Full Throttle, The Watch, and Grown Ups 2. And in the TV shows The Goldbergs, King of Queens, Space, The Office, and Glee. And it lives on with the next generation in the video game Rock Band 3. That does it for Pop History Podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.